two tiny twins have arrived from Accurascale. Let's take a closer look at the Andrew Barclay 040 ST and see how they perform. Hey guys, welcome back to Proper Chuffed. My name's Hilton and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But that is half the fun of this, isn't it? If you're new to the channel or this is your first time watching, welcome. I hope you enjoy this content, and if you do, please consider subscribing. That would be a great help to me. If you're one of the returning viewers, welcome back guys. It's good to see you again. If you've been following the channel for a while now, you'll know that I'm building a single malt whiskey distillery, Dunroman. And for the longest time, I've been debating on which locomotives should work that distillery. Well, Accurascale have the answer, and that is in the tooling that they picked up from Hattons, which sadly closed down earlier this year. And they've brought that tooling to market with a bunch of new liveries, and these were, to me, the absolutely perfect little shunters for Dunroman Distillery. And given their incredible price point, I picked up not one, but two of these little Andrew Barclay 040 STs. Now, a point on this tooling. By the time that Hattons closed down, the second batch was already well underway. Accurascale fortunately swooped in, picked up all the orders as well as the tooling. To be sure, I reached out to Accurascale just to ask whether they had made any modifications or changes, and they confirmed that no, these were the original Hattons toolings, and they may make modifications in the future if they see fit. I'd certainly love to see a different way to insert the DCC Dakota, as the current status of that is a little bit more tricky, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But without further ado, let's dive straight into the Hattons x Accurascale Andrew Barclay 040 ST. Right, here's our box from Accurascale with the Andrew Barclay 040 ST. Typical Accurascale, you've got a sleeve and a very sturdy cardboard box with a lot of foam inside, I'm assuming. I just want to point out, I love the fact that they've still included the Hattons logo here, because it is the Hattons tooling, nothing has changed, and it's a nice nod to the company that unfortunately were lost earlier this year. Let's get this unboxed. As always, a very smart presentation box from Accurascale. On the top, we've got a bit of foam padding, which is decently thick and rather typical from Accurascale. You've got your little bit of a warning pamphlet. You must read these instructions first. And we've got a small breakdown of how to fit the extra parts, as well as a bit of a punt on the Model U figures that you can get for this locomotive. There's also a breakdown of how to fit the DCC Dakota, which can be quite tricky, I won't lie. So be careful when you do that. And in the middle of this absolutely massive box, we have our tiny little Andrew Barclay 040. Inside, we've given a very small detail pack with some vacuum pipes and chain link couplings, which can be added to the locomotive. It's so small. I think this is the smallest locomotive I have. I think that it's probably comparable to the J70, but it does seem like it's a little bit smaller, obviously, because of the body size. Oh my goodness, look at how tiny this little guy is. Oh my goodness, he's adorable. And a decent little weight to it too, I must say. I really am impressed with this. Right, let's do a quick little weight check on the Andrew Barclays. Rather impressive, 125 grams. That's a decent amount of weight for a locomotive this small. I don't think I can wait anymore. Let's dive straight into the history and take a closer look at these two models. The Andrew Barclay saddle tank locomotives were small, robust steam engines built by Andrew Barclay Sons & Co., a renowned locomotive manufacturer based in Kilmarnock, Scotland. These engines were designed primarily for industrial use, such as shunting in factories, docks, collieries, and steelworks. The 040 ST wheel arrangement became one of Andrew Barclay's signature designs, with the first examples appearing in the late 19th century. These locomotives were characterized by compact size, ideal for tight curves and confined spaces found on industrial sites, a water tank mounted over the boiler, giving them a low center of gravity and good stability, and very simple mechanics that were easy to maintain and repair, making them popular with industrial operators. The design was highly customizable, allowing Barclay to meet the specific requirements of different industries. They could be equipped with features such as spark arresters for use in coal mines, or sandboxes for increased traction on slippery rails. Built to order specifications for various gauges, fuel types, coal or wood, and operational environments. These locomotives often featured a compact cab with minimal protection, reflecting their use on private industrial lines where speeds were low and safety standards were less stringent than on mainline railways. They were widely used across Britain in industries like coal mines, for shunting coal wagons from pit to processing areas, steelworks, moving molten materials or finished steel products, docks and harbors, hauling goods to and from ships, and factories transporting raw materials and finished goods. Their ability to navigate sharp curves and uneven tracks made them invaluable in locations where the larger locomotives could not operate. The rise of diesel and electric traction in the mid-20th century led to the gradual retirement of these little steam locomotives. However, many of these engines were saved from scrapped and into preservation. Today, they can be found working on heritage railways, often used for demonstrations or short passenger runs. The Barclay 040 ST is a delightful addition to the range of small industrial locomotives that we've seen this year. It has a sort of rugged charm to it, and its industrial pedigree is a perfect choice, I think, for anyone looking to add some character to their layout. For me, this was an absolute no-brainer to be used working the yard at Dunroman, and given the fantastic price point, I decided to pick up 2 of these examples for that express purpose. Looking at pictures of the real deal, it feels like the prototype's character has been faithfully captured in this model. But let's take a closer look at it and pick apart this adorable little workhorse. We'll take a look at Caledonia Works, as the crisp livery helps features stand out a bit more compared to Victory in its wasp stripes. Right off the bat, the attention to detail on this model is outstanding, and these little engines just overflow with character. From the front, we have a neatly painted buffer beam featuring some decent variations of rivet size and detail, numerous grab handles on the baseboard just below the firebox, as well as really beautifully shaped smokebox door and handle. Oh, and it does have sprung buffers if you care. Along the sides of the engine, detail continues, especially below the running plate where brake shoes, pipework, springs, and some crisply detailed running gear is present. The livery here on Caledonia Works is crisp too, with the black and white banding and printed lettering showing off some really clean lines, which extends all the way to the cylinders and the cab to boot. The small bits of pipework that lead up to the boiler is unfortunately already a bit scuffed. This is my doing, as I really struggled to unplug these pieces when removing the body to fit the Dakota. So when you do fit a Dakota, and if you do, just be very careful with these. Across the entirety of the engine, finely molded handrails and pipework are present, showing off some intricate detailing that for the size of the engine is exceptionally commendable. Things really get interesting though when we look at the authentic cab interiors, complete with painted dials and controls, as well as a painted interior that really does look quite outstanding. There's some notable bleed on Victory in particular, sadly, as the color seeps around onto the outer livery, but it's barely noticeable on the layout. The notable clear plastic covering the rear cab windows is a single piece, and that looks a little bit odd when viewed from lower down, unfortunately. Along the top of the boiler, all details bar the grab handle on the top of the boiler seem to be painted plastic, with the safety valves on Caledonia sadly a bit skew out of the box, though nothing that can't be adjusted. To the rear, details continue, although it is arguably less intricate than the rest of the engine. But there is a lamp bracket and an additional window fitted on Victory, whereas Caledonia only has the 2 portals. This, I think, highlights the variation and attention to detail in the range though, as other options come without enclosed cabs and other small changes that make them authentically prototypical. The model feels robust in its size, with sturdy construction. The couplings are well fitted and compatible with most rolling stock, though some users might prefer to swap them out for other options. The 040 ST comes DCC ready directly from Accurascale and is available in a huge variety of options. It should be noted that the DCC socket requires the smaller 6-pin variation, a mistake I made, and frankly, if you're looking to get one, I would suggest you pair yours with Accurascale's custom 6-pin decoder, as using both the Lock Pilot and Digitrax decoders caused me significant issues with running. If you are curious, stick around to the end to see how I navigated those decoders if you have no other alternatives. Priced competitively, the Barclay 040 ST offers excellent value. For £99.95, they are a steal in my opinion and will serve any industrial layout well. So let's get down to the track and do some running, I think. Right, here we are on track with these adorable little Scottish twins. As you can see, I've moved the distillery buildings down here just to add a little bit of life to this scene as we do a bit of testing. So let's put these guys under power. It should be noted I did have a couple of decoder issues, which I'll talk about a little bit later at the end of the video, but I've resolved these for the most part and run both of these engines in. So let's see how they perform under the slow speed step. There's a slight bit of cogging, but it really isn't super noticeable. And overall, this is a fantastic slow crawl for a locomotive of this size. The motor inside these locomotives is absolutely tiny. tiny, but it is able to achieve a very slow and steady crawl, which is rather impressive. Don't they just look so grand moving up and down alongside the distillery buildings? This is exactly the vision that I want coming to life, and I'm super impressed by these two little twins. So you get a fairly good idea of what you're able to achieve with the DCC fitting. I'm sure it actually is probably a bit more refined. I just need to tweak the Dakota settings further. So we're going to hook up Victory to some grain wagons and get her underway. Now these are Dapple grain wagons, and I must be honest, they're probably the worst purchase I've made so far in terms of rolling stock. They were brand new, but they are absolutely awful. Feel very fragile and light, and very often derail. We're also going to hook up Caledonia to some Bachmann whiskey hoppers and get her underway too. These, in comparison to the Dapples, are 10 times better. Both versions of this model are strong, powerful little pullers and don't struggle up hills whatsoever, especially on my 1 to 2% incline. No issues there. And surprisingly, don't struggle on any of the point work either, which is great to see. So I'll let these two do their thing and get to work. There's really very little to dislike about these locomotives, if I'm very honest with you. Personally, I find their visual appeal fantastic. They really do look absolutely brilliant, and I prefer their sort of square saddle tanks to some of the more round ones that we see very often. Secondly, the price point is absolutely fantastic. At £99.95 for a tooling as detailed as this, I'm incredibly impressed, and I think that's a real steal. If you've been on the fence about it, I do hope this video has convinced you, because you probably should pick one up if you've got any kind of industrial work on your layout. Finally, I just want to mention that I think it's really fantastic that Accurascale had picked up a whole bunch of these Hattons toolings. This is actually one of those locomotives that I saw a year ago, placed my order then immediately with Hattons for their second run, and then they closed, and I was absolutely gutted. And the fact that Accurascale have picked these up and made it happen is brilliant. We're back to YouTuber shoutouts, and this week I want to shout out Pringleton Model Railway. Pringleton Model Railway is run by a guy called Daryl. Daryl is a top class bloke, and he's been putting together a series of videos as he sort of works on his layout that I think he started quite a while ago, but he's making adjustments as he goes. He comes up with some fantastic and rather cheap methods of improving his layout, and there are certainly a couple of them that I will be employing in my own layout going forward. So do please check out Pringleton Model Railway and tell Daryl I said hi. If you didn't pick up the DCC Dakota from Accurascale for these Andrew Barclays and you're looking to fit your own 6-pin into this locomotive, stick around because I've got you covered. That's all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I greatly appreciate it. Until I see you next time, keep your engines fired and stay on track. All the best. Hey, if you've made it this far, you're probably interested in the DCC aspect of this locomotive. Now, Accurascale do provide a DCC Dakota with these locomotives, which has to be purchased separately. But if you, like me, had to purchase a separate brand of 6-pin DCC Dakota, this might help you. When I initially fitted my 6 pins, they were both lock pilots, and unfortunately with the longer rectangular ones, make sure you have the smaller square 6 pins before you make your purchase. The next thing I noticed was that these Dakotas did not initially run very well with these locomotives. There was a lot of really jerky forwards and backwards movement, and it's certainly not the way you want to run a small shunting locomotive. I managed to fit both the Digitrax and Gagemaster Dakota to these locomotives respectively, and had the same jerky result. But deep diving into the CVs, I managed to make some adjustments, and I think these might be able to help you too. When you enter your CV programming, you need to go into the 50s. So we're going to be looking at CVs 54, 55, 56, and 57. For CV 54, you want to adjust this to 5. For CV 55, you want to adjust this to 100. For CV 56, 20. And for CV 57, 5. You can pause this here and just reference it if you need it. But I found that overall, these CV changes gave me the best results. You can obviously adjust these numbers to your liking if you'd prefer to refine it further. I hope that helps you guys, but again, if you are interested in purchasing it, maybe just pick up the Accurascale one because it was already adjusted to give you the best result. Again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you keep well.